come into whatever you do in venture and innovation with a 15-year mind frame. It's developmental biology, and you can't really accelerate or fake that. And if you're not up for that, don't become a parent, so to speak. It's just demystifying this business and de-romanticizing it.
Since we're on this topic, like, what are some of the other, I guess, common mistakes or common missteps that you see founders take when they're trying to approach Japan as a global startup?
I think the bigger trap, and I'm sure you see this as well, is people don't understand how random the inside operations of a Japanese corporation are. You know, in some ways they're very buttoned down, but there's a lot of freedom of motion, especially when you'll have, like, venture is a hot space. You get points for doing something in venture, and you'll see a Bucho, you know, a general manager who has a lot of power and a lot of connection to the board and is kind of directing their innovation work. But then his rival inside the corporation, who is maybe lost a lot of power, will still go, there's a lot of monkey see, monkey do, will still say, I'm gonna do what that person's doing because that's what's getting him ahead. Then those underlings go out and they try to do venture, they try to do some innovative project, and I think they have the best of intention, and they want to make something happen, and they build these relationships with entrepreneurs, and they see how hard they work. But the entrepreneurs don't know that there's no way this person can ever get this done. They have no clout, they have no budget, and they'll be in that space for a year and a half, 2 years before they realize, oh, I've wasted all this time. So we see the same thing, and this goes back to the selling in both directions. The very, very common thing we see in our corporate partners is the things they get involved with or the people they get involved with. A lot of times we're just like, oh my gosh, what were you thinking? Why didn't you call us? We could have helped you.
Right.
We don't necessarily know always what the right answer is, but it's really easy to know what the wrong answer is. So that I think is the most common problem, is these two communities kind of engage, is they don't know how to find those few people who actually can get things done.
And that's very difficult to do without a partner, right? I mean, if you don't have feet on the ground, if you don't know the market dynamics, you don't know the organization dynamics, it's very difficult to navigate.
Would you climb Everest without an experienced team of Sherpas?
Exactly.
You're gonna die.
Right.
You will die, right?
So one thing that I've heard you mention in the past that I thought was very interesting observation is being careful about who you partner with in Japan, simply because there are political dynamics at play. There are rivalries that you need to be conscious of. One factor would be, okay, these are the mega banks, and you need to be careful which one you partner with, because if you partner with one, you're probably not going to be able to partner with another one. And then another dynamic would be, like, what tier of company they are, like their brand value within the market. And a lot of these Japanese companies, they have innovation departments, and they have, some young buck that's like reaching out to all these startups. And, from a entrepreneur's perspective, being in the United States, might have no idea, who Mitsukoshi is, for example.
Right.
And might think, oh, great, like I can partner with this department store, not knowing the implications of that and how many doors that might close simply by partnering with that particular company. So love for you to elaborate on that, because I just thought that was so insightful.
Well, as we talked earlier, the first thing we do for entrepreneurs is what we call a market map. Mm-hmm. So before you go anywhere, I'm one of those people. I like to look at maps and understand, where things are positioned. And so the market map is getting into things like keiretsu and keiretsu behavior. So it's just very common. Somebody will be, in a conversation with a company that's tight to Mizuho Bank, and then they'll turn around and have a conversation right after that with Mitsubishi Trading Company, and they'll talk about it openly. It's not bad. It's not going to hurt you, but you need to know that that's not what they might want to hear.
Right.
You just need to know those sort of basic things. I think they happen all the time, and understanding that you might actually be talking to companies, like you might talk to Sompo and you might talk to Tokyo Marine, and you might not make the connection of how strong those two companies are and how much they compete with each other. They happen both be LPs of ours, and so we work with them, but that's, that you need to be aware of how the dynamics play out. Your other question, I think, is very interesting. It's very common, I think, for startups to say, we're gonna get customers, we're gonna build some credibility. Maybe they're smaller companies. We're gonna get some base, and we'll work our way up to the tier one players in the U.S. For a few reasons, our recommendation is really, if you come into Japan, try to get about 3 tier one customers first. There's a couple of reasons. One is they're easier to deal with. They have more resources. They tend to have better language skills. They can deal with you much better than some of the smaller second and third tier players. And the other reason, is I think you were alluding to, is there's a risk of association that a second tier customer represents you're a second tier startup. And the reason, what we're really trying to get them to do is stay at home. Let's see if we can get you legitimately, say, 3 tier one customers. And then at some point, as those contracts get big, the Japanese say, well, we want local support. Then you can start building local support. But if you're going in with a tier one syndicate and a tier one customer base, you're gonna hire a tier one country manager. And if you have second tier, you're gonna get a second tier manager. And the most important thing you do in expanding into a country is your first hire. So we're just trying to set them up for some very simple formula for how to optimize your chances for success.